Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
Somewhere between science and superstition.
We have such sights to show you.
Strange Eons. Welcome to Strange Eons Radio. That is Eric over there.
Hello.
That is Vanessa over there.
Hello.
I'm Kelly. You guys,
Yes.
I got a novel.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Dude.
It's like a real, book.
Out now.
Oh my God.
Please, everybody, buy this book.
That's right. Get it. Get it now.
Run, don't
available,
walk.
Yeah,
To your
available in
local
ebook,
website.
in physical copy, like a real book.
That's right. And if you did the purchase of the special serialized version, feel free to pick this one up to complete the set fully.
Actually,
100%. Oh no.
If you are one of the 33 who bought into the serialized novel, do not buy this book. Reach out to me, please. I will get you a copy of this book.
Nice.
Oh.
So, but also don't try and fuck with me. I know the 33 people.
Kelly continues to not know how to make money. That's what this show's about.
People have said some really embarrassingly nice things about the book, and I'm absolutely humbled, and thank you so much for that. With that in mind, I took a masterclass on writing just recently.
Oh, really?
And it was interesting. I wasn't sure how it was going to go because it was a kind of strange one on something called copy work. Have you guys heard of this as a writing practice?
Not sure.
This is where you take a famous author's work and you copy it word for word.
Oh.
Now, the lesson over the 12 days was it shifted, each day. This is about characterization. This is about setting. This is about internal monologue, all these things, right? And I thought, okay. And then as you're copying, they're pointing out, see what's going on here? See how he uses these kind of phrases, all of this stuff, right? So I was like, I will give this a shot. First writer, Ernest Hemingway.
I knew he was going to come up. I was waiting.
I'm not a fan of Ernest Hemingway.
Oh no.
And having to laser focus on his writing
Oh no.
was really hard because I was just like, why would you fucking use this word this way? Why is it in this order? This doesn't. So I'm like, all right, well, but I had paid for it and I was just going to follow it to the letter, do everything, right? The next author, Cormac McCarthy.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
No fucking punctuation in his writing. I'm getting angrier and angrier. I'm like, I hope this is not just going to be Ernest Hemingway and Cormac McCarthy through this whole time. The next one I see pop up is Bret Easton Ellis. Now, I think Bret Easton Ellis is an amazing writer.
Yeah.
The part they want me to copy is out of American Psycho, which I think is the worst fucking book on the planet. And as I'm writing it, I'm just going, Jesus, I don't know how you got this published. This book sucks. This is awful.
Oh no.
It's a bit verbose.
The next day, Suzanne Collins.
Oh.
Wow.
She did a Swamp Thing edition.
No, you're thinking of Nancy Collins,
I
who
am
I
thinking
think
of Nancy
is
Collins.
a brilliant writer. Suzanne
Oh.
Collins wrote The Hunger Games.
Oh,
And it's
shit.
First person present,
Oh, wow.
which I hate this kind of writing. I'm just getting angrier and angrier as I'm doing
I'm
this.
surprised you're stuck with it.
The next week or the next day, Ernest Hemingway again.
Oh,
but
no.
I'm reading this one as I'm writing it. I'm going, oh, this is pretty good. I like this
okay,
story.
nice,
This
nice.
is interesting. And then the clouds parted.
There you go.
A golden beam of sunlight came down in the form of Stephen
There
King
it is.
Yeah.
for an internal monologue, and just a joy.
Yeah.
Just a joy to write his stuff.
What a great choice, too, to use as an example.
And then the last one was, now I can't remember. There was one story in there by a Japanese writer who I was not familiar with that was so interesting. And I'm not, they're giving you 1,200 words, 2,000 words to write. They're not having you read the entire story. But this was so interesting that I hunted down the short stories so that I could read the entire story. That was really
cool.
interesting. And so I finished the 12th lesson was today, and it was kind of a bullshit lesson. It's now write a 2,000-word short story using everything you've learned. And I was like, oh,
my
fuck you.
gosh.
I guess I will just continue writing on my next novel.
So yeah, was this actually helpful?
It, I think the entire idea of making you handwrite out this stuff
Yeah.
is so that you focus on what these words actually mean instead of just absorbing them through your eyes. You're absorbing them through your mind and your fingers and everything.
Yeah.
And it did point out some things. The interesting thing I thought was like I'll never read a Cormac McCarthy novel again. I just I
so hard.
fucking hate everything that I've read of his, and it's all because he doesn't believe in having quotation marks around dialogue and
God.
stuff like that.
Oh,
It's
God.
like
What's his famous one? We just referenced it.
The Road.
The Road. He also did. Didn't he also do the?
He did.
No Country for Old
No
Men.
Country for Old Men.
I
Yeah,
did try to read that because I love that movie so much.
great
Yeah.
movie, right?
I think I made it like 4 pages into that frigging book before I was like, I made it through Train Spotting, for God's sakes, and I could not make it through that.
I read The Road, and that really, I don't read a lot of books anymore. It's a fucking, if you're going to make something that's so dark and horrible to read, that's even worse than the
It
movie.
is that.
I also understand it's all art form and people get what they get out of it. I like a very traditional, at least a traditional looking paragraph. I love the way that looks, and so when it doesn't look like that,
Yeah.
I'm always thrown off a bit.
Yeah.
But
Maybe you're
anyway,
supposed to be thrown off. It's like Dutch angles.
I think that is probably exactly
But
what
longer.
those pretentious assholes who like that kind of stuff would say.
Yeah, sure.
But I would say, also, I was the editor of Strange Eons magazine for 10 years.
Yeah.
Read
So-
a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and so when you see stuff that's kind of out there, you're like, okay, I'm going to reach out to the author and say, did you intend this?
Yeah.
Because I always want to let them have whatever's going on in their head. But
I wonder if a lot of these people are often drunk or high or depressed while writing these things.
very
Isn't that?
targeted
I don't know
here.
if you're talking about just artistic writers.
I'm just saying, maybe that punctuation thing that everyone thinks is so purposeful, I wonder sometimes if maybe we're giving them a little too much credit. Maybe people are just
I don't know
fucking up.
how to use a comma. Oh, I know what to do.
Well, I have
I'm just
myself.
going to stream of consciousness this because I want to barf in this bucket, but I also have this great idea.
William S. Burroughs.
I have an amazing editor who goes over my stuff, and she will often, send me a text or something with something highlighted,
Mhm.
and she'll be like, "This should be this." And I have been guilty on a number of occasions, going, "That's just style. I'm going to keep it like that." and she'll be like,
Fine.
Oh my gosh.
So
Incredible.
we're all narcissists when we're
Oh,
on art.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. Anyhow, so I guess my point is I got a novel out, and then I started learning how to write.
Oh, good job.
Mhm.
That's the
Kind of
order.
like how we did our first film.
Yeah, well, Eric and I made a feature film, then we went to film school. So I have seen a few things here, though. I'm not sure what I want to talk about first. Some really cool stuff. I'm going to talk about a documentary called Brats
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I saw that looked interesting.
on Hulu.
Yeah.
Andrew McCarthy. I think you might be a little too young to have actually experienced the Brat Pack.
No, I think I was a little on the young side. I was just barely though, because I'm aware of all the films and I've seen the films, but it
Right.
wasn't part of my teenage experience.
Right. And if you weren't kind of that age while that was all going on,
Yeah.
you might not realize how important all those fucking movies
Yeah, they were
were, the
huge.
soundtracks to them and
Yeah.
all that stuff. So what this is a documentary about the Brat Pack, and it is created and directed by Andrew McCarthy, who was one of the members of the Brat Pack.
Mhm.
And he had a real hard time with that label.
Right.
He felt that it ruined his career, and he felt like he was never taken seriously again after that. And he kind of blamed Emilio Estevez because it was an interview with Emilio Estevez that led this writer to then tag them with the Brat Pack because Emilio was not acting like a adult.
Shocking. Yeah, he was the only one of that group that had problems.
Oh, well, and that's just it. So Andrew goes and talks to Emilio about this. And first of all, Emilio looks so much like Martin Sheen now that I just about fell off my chair.
Because he used to look like, oh, that's his son? Yeah, sure as hell is.
Yes.
Weird.
And so he and Andrew talk very candidly about it. And then he goes and he talks to Demi Moore. He talks to Ali Sheedy, and then he talks to the director of Pretty in Pink, and he talks to Leah Thompson, who even said, she was like, I'm not Brat Pack.
Yeah.
She goes, I think I'm Brat Pack adjacent.
Yeah.
Right,
But she talked about what it was like growing up in that time, doing those movies and watching what was happening to people and how badly they were taking it. It's just a really, really interesting movie.
Wow.
Cool.
So, and then I immediately went and watched Some Kind of Wonderful afterwards because Leah Thompson is still so pretty and she's like 66 years old. And I was like, oh my God, she's hot. So, it's called Brats. It's on Hulu, and it is actually kind of a companion piece because he wrote a book a couple years ago that was called Brat, I think. And it was basically his life story going through all that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I finished out the second Avatar series, Korra, which I didn't really love the first time I watched it through, and this is my second go, and definitely better the second time through. I was less irritated by, I just hate steampunk more than fucking anything. I don't think the 1920s were that interesting. I don't think the turn of the century, in which case we started getting industrialization, was that much fun. But it features a lot of that kind of iconography.
Are you saying sometimes people look back on the past with kind of a rose-colored glasses ideas?
Or pink-colored welding glasses. Oh, so fucking cool, guys. Love it every time I fucking see it. So it's not my favorite, but the characters in it are so good, and I love the first Avatar series, and getting to see some of those people come back, or even hear some of the voices and new characters was helpful. I forgot though that it ended on like kind of a lesbian note where like Korra's like, I'm gonna go off and do a vacation adventure in the spirit world. Come with me. Asami, who's like the hot chick who her and Asami are always fighting over this one guy, but they kind of make peace with it. I'm like, wait, they're holding hands and going off on a spirit world journey together.
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, if only I would have loved it more if it was a little more earned, because I was like, Asami's definitely the biggest catch out of that entire show. Like, Korra made the right decision, but I do think they could have leaned into that growing, budding relationship a little more, even if it's Nickelodeon, they can't actually do it.
There's something about two girls fighting over a dude and then ending up with each other instead that makes me very happy.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Mako wasn't worth it anyway. 100%. I'm like, why Mako? He's not that cool, dude. Like, just fucking him and his goddamn scarf, okay? Who cares? Like, Bolin at least is funny.
Alrighty then. Well,
Yourself, put my scarf away.
So yeah, if our listeners have any suggestions for 5-month-old appropriate shows that I can watch en masse in the background while I'm taking care of my daughter, then let me know.
Put Epic on your list on Disney.
there you go.
Yes, definitely going to check out Epic.
Last episode, I mentioned the documentary, The Clones of Bruce. And
Here
so
we
I
go.
went on to watch the movie, which the documentary borrowed its title from, The Clones of Bruce Lee. Starring Dragon Lee, Bruce Lee with one E, Bruce Lai, not Bruce Lai, L-A-I, not L-I. L-I was not in this one.
This is not confusing. Start over.
Exactly.
Hold on.
Dragon Lee, Bruce Lee, 1E, Bruce Lai, Lai, Bruce Tai,
Ah,
and Yang Tse, better known as Bolo Young,
Oh,
Yeah.
Bolo.
Okay.
who's actually in a lot of these films. It is what it sounds like. It's a bunch of Bruce Lee imitators were brought together to be in one movie. Bruce Lai, either I can't quite tell if they're a little vague whether he turned it down or wasn't fully available or a combination, but they did not get him, who is arguably the most famous of the Bruce Lee imitators. But you get a whole lot of them, and the idea is Bruce is dying or has died, so a doctor comes in and he makes clones of Bruce.
Oh my
There's
God.
Bruce 1, there's Bruce 2, and there's Bruce 3.
Oh,
G'day, Bruce.
oh my
Exactly.
God.
And I tell you, this movie is a fucking hoot. It is so much fun. I took martial arts from like 7 years old to 16 or 17. And, in a martial arts class, you kind of become sort of a dick towards martial arts movies.
Mm.
This one I would have liked. I think I saw too many of the Shaw Brothers where they're flying all over the place doing impossibly cool things, which
Yeah.
I like now. But at the time, it's like, this is not real martial arts.
Fucking
So, of
Joy,
course-
you must have been at parties.
So parties, invited to parties? What? No. But of course, I love Bruce Lee movies, and a few of these. I remember a few of these, and this one is awesome. It's so wonderfully bad and so entertaining. The Bruce Lee imitators are set to go against crime, but of course the professor or whatever who made them becomes twisted because he feels he's not being recognized enough for the good he did with bringing these Bruce Lees back to fight crime. So he starts to make them battle each other
Oh.
to the death. And it's wonderful. It even has a great training, not quite a montage, but a training scene
Hmm.
with a very, let me tell you, subtle ripoff of Rocky music. So it is awesome. So I can't wait to continue to dive through these amazingly, wonderfully interesting films.
Nice.
The clones of Bruce Lee.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure. I've got a couple of things here.
Oh, something you can talk about quick. You can do too.
No, well, yes, I can talk about them both quickly. I'll just say really quick, I watched a live performance of Queen that just came out called Queen Rock Montreal. That is
nice.
so good. Remember when you and I and Rick went and saw that in the theater?
Mhm,
That was like from 78 or something. This is
Yeah.
from 80. So it's got a lot of their kind of poppier hits
Yeah.
in it live and just amazing. That's not what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the fact that surprisingly, one of my favorite cartoons has returned to HBO Max, and that is My Adventures with Superman. Season 2 has started.
Oh.
Nice.
And this is just a really fun
Mhm.
cartoon. I'm really enjoying this kind of new take on everything. This is basically, it could be called Clark Kent, The College Years. His roommate is Jimmy Olsen, and his girlfriend is
Okay.
Lois Lane, and they all know he's Superman already.
Oh,
And so they're helping him with everything that's going on.
Oh, nice.
And it's just the animation is really solid, and the stories are good and fun.
very cool.
That's awesome.
It's like, I'm enjoying this so much more than any Superman movie I've seen lately.
Fair.
Yeah.
Bars low.
The animation end of DC continues
Yeah.
to deliver.
Well, not quite, because they fucking
fun?
did that.
Killing Joke?
No, just recently. Crisis on Infinite Earths. They did that.
Yeah,
as
that
a-
was not great.
It was awful.
Have you gone back though and recently read Crisis on Infinite Earths?
Well, no, but don't
It's not
fuck
a great
me over here.
story. It's a rough. I read it a couple years ago. Going, all right, this is fine.
Fine for 1981 or whatever.
Yeah, whenever that happened.
Still better than any current X-Men comic.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's true.
Well, gosh. I've got the embarrassing thing I can talk about, or
Oh,
the
don't just stop right there.
Hey,
God.
also, Eric made a new rule. If you can talk about it quick, you can talk about both of them.
Oh, there you go.
God.
Yeah, maybe I'll do that too. I've got.
Well, yeah. So I watched Bridgerton because again, I'm a girl.
Because it's for your daughter?
No, she was not turned towards the TV for any of that. I will tell you
I'm
what.
always surprised at how girly you are sometimes.
I know. It's the worst. It's something that I have hated about myself for so long and hidden away. And then one day I was like, it's okay. I have a uterus. And sometimes I just have to watch this shit. I
There
just
you
do.
go.
So I have, in fact, watched all of Bridgerton and caught up on this season. And it's just hilarious to me. The only thing I really want to mention about it is, besides it's good, it continues to be Bridgerton, blah, blah, blah. They're known for having like hot sexual scenes, which I am always grossed out by because I'm weird. I'm like, oh, they're kissing. Oh, stop. Hold hands, I guess. Fine. I don't know why we have to see it on screen. So every season they try to really amp that stuff up. And for this season, their couple only really messes around like twice. So they filled in the gaps by having one of the other siblings like experiment sexually and have a threesome randomly with like these other characters. And they kept going back to this threesome. And I'm like, you guys are just, you're desperate. It's desperate. It's like, fuck, we need more sex in this. So,
Well, they removed that from the movies in a large portion. Theatrically released movies are kind of light on sex and nudity, and people still want to see it, so they gotta put it somewhere.
I mean,
and Netflix is
this
diving
show.
deep into that.
This show is all about it. That's what really got the first season so popular. Is everyone's like, oh, like a dumb little,
That
romance.
one dude's ass apparently was.
And then they were like, holy shit, there's like masturbation in this show. Okay. So yeah, and I think that people were like, oh, you're actually going to take a romance series and actually show some of those elements. So I don't read romance books for this reason, but it's fine. Whatever. The story is still interesting to me. So.
Did you want to mention the other thing quickly?
The other thing I watched was a documentary called Dancing for the Devil, which is about these TikTok dancers that got pulled into a cult.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And that was pretty fascinating. I think they're going to do a season 2 because they ended without managing to actually get the last main girl out of the cult, and everything evolves as it does with Netflix. I've seen other documentaries that they've done 2-parters with those teenage boys who killed and their dad was killing people. Anyway, so I know there's probably just going to do another season down like in a year or two, but it was pretty fascinating. It was definitely interesting about how you can slowly but surely get swept into a cult by narcissistic people, where you start off being like, oh, this guy is like being cool and he wants to give us money and he has like some spaces he'll rent out for us to do these like professional looking TikTok vids. And he happens to be a preacher. And so he's inviting us to his family dinners and they happen to be saying prayers. Doesn't matter. And then, he's really comparing a lot of this stuff to godliness. And all of a sudden, they're not allowed to talk to their families anymore. They have to go to church all the time. It's this one guy, and he's making up shit as he goes, and is apparently sexually abusing various members of
Always
his
a portion
church.
of it.
That's the only reason anyone starts a cult.
As you do. You got to have a lot of wives. God demands it. Really, God cares so much about how many people you have sex with. It's very important. Yeah. So it was definitely fascinating because it's so recent. You would think like people are a little smarter and we're like in a social media age. So like people might know somehow not to fall into this, but nope. We're still people.
No, there's that is proven to be absolutely false. That more information means more. It all depends on how you do it, where you get it from, what you do with it.
Yeah, and if somebody just says it with enough conviction, you can just follow them to the ends of the earth. So,
and that's called Dancing for the Devil,
Dancing for the Devil. Yeah. Both of those.
New Motley Crue album out next week.
If Motley Crue was an Asian man, yes. Anyway.
Loudness, new album. Okay, I'm going to do a couple real quick. Damn it. This is not going to appeal to a lot of people, but I know at least one person will like this. I did a weird purchase on eBay. There's this set of 5 Prince Blu-rays of live shows, all his appearance on SNL and a few other things. And I was like, well, let's see what these are like. Holy shit. The quality is insane.
Ron, he's talking to you. I hope you're listening.
Yeah, all right. The quality is ridiculous. It looks phenomenal. It sounds phenomenal, and well worth picking up.
Okay.
So that was pretty cool. Main reason I got it is my first Prince concert was Love Sexy, and this concert is one of the concerts there. I was like, cool. The other thing, have you ever read the book, The Warriors, that the movie's based on by
No.
Saul Urich.
Yeah. Have you read it?
Yeah.
It's fucking weird.
Nothing like the movie.
No, I mean, the base storyline is like they got the guy, he preaches them to a little bit, the gangs come together, and then they kind of go home, but it's really weird.
Huh.
It's like if somebody said, I'm thinking of writing a book about this, and then the filmmaker was like, okay, I will make a movie also about this, but I shall not look at your book.
Yes, it is.
So you read the book then?
I'm in the middle of reading it. It just came out. It's been republished and is also an ebook now. So I've been reading that. And
man, I found that a tough read.
It is. Yeah, it is. I'm back and forth with, what's his name? The amazing horror author just had a new book come out about
Paul Tremblay. I bet you're talking about.
Like, I don't know if I'm going to get through this before I just abandon it and read his book. But I mean, like the sayings are weird. The way, and it doesn't feel like it's. I don't know this slang. It feels more like he is making this shit up.
Absolutely.
Is it like based on Clockwork Orange style?
No,
Okay.
no. That's a tough read too, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's a little more interesting to read. It's just you need the glossary. This is not complicated slang. It's just weird, strange shit thrown away.
Yeah.
Like instead of wearing real, like gangs usually have the stereotype of the way they look in the Warriors, they wear like little pins on their hats that indicate their thing. And
not nearly as cool as like a whole baseball uniform situation.
Exactly.
But all
so
right.
that would be so much more fun. And like the scene I'm in the middle of reading is when they run into that second level band. Well, why, if it's such a big meeting, why weren't we invited? And that's similar.
Yeah.
But the interact, it's weird. It is just very, very strange to read.
That'd be a good documentary to see, or not even a documentary, a book on maybe the Warriors isn't that big. You've read Future Noir, which is the making of Blade Runner.
One of the best making of books ever written.
And it's so interesting because they just keep going back to that original script, which was really close to the book, and then it just kept evolving because they realized this is not going to make a good movie.
No.
And so you can kind of see the evolution of how things change and why they become this way. That needs to be done for that book because it is who bought it and then hired a screenwriter and then said, okay, sure, this is the movie or this is the book we bought.
Yeah. I mean, like the lead gang is The Family, is the name of the gang.
Huh.
And they structure themselves that way, kind of like I'm the dad now. It's wow. I'm like, it keeps calling all of the gang members warriors.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay, I think I know. Like, that is so much cooler than The Family.
Yeah, I feel like there must have been a production meeting like the Key and Peele Gremlins 2, where somebody came in and was just like throwing out ideas and said, okay, that's what this movie is going to be about now. How about a gang of guys with half their face black and half their face yellow, and they wear baseball outfits.
And for some reason, a radio station knows everything that's going on and tells everybody about it. It's so cool.
You want a gang on roller skates? You got it.
That's right. In overalls.
You want mimes? Absolutely. Yeah, that's a very weird book.
Yeah.
You're making me want to. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just really want to rewatch the movie now.
Yeah.
All right, why don't we take a little break so I can calm down from that, and then
Walter
when we
Hilling.
get back, we're talking about 1982.
I wanna grow up. I'm a Toys R Us kid.
They got a million toys at Toys R Us that she can play with.
I don't wanna grow up. I'm a Toys R Us kid.
They got the best for so much less you really flip your head. Now at Toys R Us, the new E.T. cartridge, only $33.97. Help E.T. phone home with the Atari video game system. Now just $124.87. So go to Toys R Us and have a blast.
More games, more toys, oh boy! Oh, be a Toys R Us kid.
And we're back. This was my subgenre choice, and it's because I couldn't come up with anything. And so I chose an entire year, 1982. And guess what? I had such a good time with this. You'll see me doing this again.
Excellent.
So I'm going to put 10 minutes on the buzzer for myself. And I'm going to talk about, from 1982, Cat People.
I didn't think you were ready, but you are. I knew it when I saw you with him. Your whole body burns. Make love with me.
I'm not like you.
You can't escape the nightmare without me. And I can't escape without you.
I'm not like you!
Ooh.
This is, of course, the remake, Cat People.
Yeah.
It had a budget of $18 million, a worldwide box office of $7 million.
Oh.
Rotten Tomatoes critics give it 64%. The audience gives it 45%. Directed by Paul Schrader, who has 28 credits, including Hardcore, American Gigolo, and Dominion, which was one of the Exorcist prequels. Mm-hmm. Written by DeWitt Bodine. Well, not really. He has 33 credits, one of which is the original Cat People. And then this screenplay written by Alan Ormsby, who has 21 credits, including Dead of Night, My Bodyguard, Popcorn, and The Substitute. Starring Natasha Kinski. 76 credits, including To the Devil a Daughter, Tess, Paris, Texas, and Dark Satellites. Malcolm McDowell, who has 293 credits, including Clockwork Orange, Caligula, Blue Thunder, Class of 1999, 2 episodes of Firestarter Rekindled, which was apparently a Firestarter TV series that I had no idea existed.
Oh.
You're not alone.
Also starring John Hurd, 183 credits, including Chud, After Hours, Big, Home Alone, Awakenings, and 2177, The San Francisco Love Hacker Crimes.
Huh.
Okay.
And
Love
Annette
Hacker.
O'Toole, who has 98 credits, including 48 Hours, Superman 3, 136 episodes of Smallville as Martha Kent.
Ah.
And in this movie is also Ruby Dee, Ed Begley Jr., and John Larroquette for a minute.
Oh, weird.
You guys have both seen this remake, right?
Yeah. I have.
Yes.
Okay. So we're introduced to Irina, who is a beautiful young woman who was apparently raised by adoptive parents and is now meeting for the first time since childhood her older brother Paul, who lives in New Orleans. Paul has come to the airport to pick her up, and it's already a very sleazy scene where he's walking behind her and checking her out as she moves. Now, she is gorgeous, no doubt, but this is her brother, and he knows that he is looking at his sister.
Ah.
Oh.
Paul lives alone in the city, and he excuses himself after dinner with her and takes off on his own because Paul has arranged for a hooker to meet with him at a cheap hotel. But this is not just some sexual tryst. No, Paul is a cat person, And I don't just mean a person who loves cats, Vanessa.
Wait, what?
Paul turns into, via bladder effects of the time, a werepanther, I suppose you would call him, which is like a werewolf, except he turns into a beautiful, full black panther. He attacks the hooker, but she escapes with her life, and now Paul, in panther form, is stuck in this hotel room. Vanessa, I'm using the vernacular of the time, so you can mentally change that to escort or sex worker or whatever works for you.
Oh, my God.
Be assured that your word will sound just as bad 20 years from now.
Oh, my God. Jesus Christ.
So now we meet Oliver, Alice, and Joe from the New Orleans Zoo, who are called by the police to capture the panther and literally put him behind bars, which they do at the zoo. When Irina wakes up the next morning, she has no idea where her brother is, so she sets out to see the sights by herself. Eventually, she ends up at the zoo, where she is quite literally fascinated by the new Black Panther they have there. So fascinated is she that she's still there sketching him an hour and a half after the zoo is closed. Now, you might say, certainly, there are some kind of tests they have to do with a new animal before putting him on display, especially if they've caught him in a cheap hotel. But I'm telling you, it was a different time. This is clearly all
Free
above
Panther.
board. Oliver, remember, he shows up and startles her and quickly takes her out to dinner and then offers her a job working at the zoo's gift shop. So Irina meets Alice there, and Alice and Oliver kind of have this thing going on. Alice takes Irina to lunch, and during their conversation, we find out that Irina is still a virgin. This exposition is shoehorned uncomfortably into conversation. I think there were probably any number of ways we could have gotten this information somehow else, but this writer also thinks that you catch a city panther and put it on display in the zoo without even giving it its shots. Also, the virgin stuff is important information and needs to be out there. After lunch, Irina goes back to the Black Panther in an area that is now shut down. Joe, the other zookeeper, he's trying to get food to the panther, but once the cat sees Irina, it goes insane, attacks Joe, and tears his arm off, then escapes. Joe bleeds to death in front of Irina, which I guess is what you would call a bad first day at work. When Irina gets home that evening, Paul returns, but he no longer seems so brotherly. He claims that he was in jail during his time away. And he also tries to have sex with Irina, telling her that he's the only one who can touch her and she's the only one who can touch him. Irina runs off with Paul chasing her, and there's a little bit of something going on here because she has leapt from her balcony and landed very easily on the ground with what you might call cat-like grace. And Paul is doing the same thing. She's able to flag down a police car, but when the cops finally start listening to her, there's no one chasing her. The canine unit, however, is going fucking batshit crazy, and when they let it out, the dog leads them to Paul's basement, where they find a cage, chains, and parts of several bodies.
Ew.
A background check on Paul shows that he's been in and out of mental institutions since the age of 10, when his parents killed themselves. Turns out they were circus performers, and Paul grew up around big cats. Thinking that Paul might have been the one keeping the escaped panther from the other night, they call the zoo, and Oliver and Alice come over. The cop thinks that Paul meant to kill Irina, so he suggests she find someplace else to live, and Oliver, being a nice guy, offers her to stay with him.
Sure.
Things are becoming weirder and weirder with Irina, though, and in fact, one night she slips out of the house naked and finds herself chasing after a rabbit, which she kills and eats, and then Oliver sees her come back to the house naked and covered in blood. So she's in love with him, but can't have sex with him. He's in love with her, but she won't have sex with him. And Alice is also in love with Oliver, which is bringing out a very bestial rivalry in Irina. Paul finally does attack Irina in Oliver's house, trying to have sex with her again. He explains that it's the only way they can live, just as their parents, who were also brother and sister, lived together as husband and wife.
I don't think he understands how cats work.
After a struggle, Paul is turned back into the panther, and as he's about to attack, Oliver and Alice show up, and Alice shoots Paul with a shotgun, killing him. By the way, when Oliver tries to autopsy the panther, he's horrified to see an entire human hand in its stomach, and then the panther spontaneously disintegrates. I'm not sure why that happened, but I liked it.
Again, I don't think he knows how cats work.
Will Irina and Oliver find love and make love? And will that be the thing that triggers the full panther transformation in Irina? Will Irina beg Oliver to kill her? And when he won't, will she beg him to free her by making love to her once more, stating, "I want to live with my own"? and will. All of this then get thrown out the door when in the final scene, Oliver stops at the new panther cage at the zoo, where the recaptured panther is obviously now Irina, trapped forever as a panther and definitely not living with her own, but caged in a zoo? What the fuck, Oliver?
Damn.
Yeah, I remember thinking this movie was pretty fucking stupid when I saw it in the 80s, but I enjoyed it a lot more this time. It suffers from too much sex, if you can believe that, or if you can believe me ever saying that about a movie.
Pretty shocking.
It's definitely sleazy and sexy and weird, but the ideas are pretty flimsy and just do not hold a candle to the original Cat People, directed by Jacques Tournier for Val Lewton at RKO.
So good.
There are only 2 scenes that are even remotely connected to the original film. That's a scene where Alice is being stalked in a darkened swimming pool by a panther that you can hear, but you can't see.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably my favorite scene from the original movie, and it is the best scene in this movie. And the other scene is literally just a bus pulling in front of the camera with a loud sound as a jump scare.
Wow.
Still effective 40 years after the original film and 42 years after this film. Taglines, I'm going to rush through this. An erotic fantasy about the animal in us all.
Meow.
Trivia. This is my favorite piece of trivia, so I just want to get it out.
Okay.
A story goes that director Paul Schrader and actress Natasha Kinski had an affair during the production of this movie. Schrader fell in love and planned to propose to Kinski at the wrap party, but she didn't show up and cut off all communication with him. After 3 months, Schrader finally tracked Kinski down in Paris, where she bluntly told him, Paul, I always fuck my directors, and with you, it was difficult.
Oh my God.
Paul Schrader regretted using the Cat People title after a negative reaction to this movie occurred, comparing it with the original Cat People from 1942. But what the fuck did you think would happen, Paul? Did you see 1976's King Kong? I'm not going to talk about that one. I'm not going to talk about that. Oh, I like this. Producer Wilbur Stark had purchased the rights to the arcade. Oh.
Oh, nice.
It's okay. It's okay. I want to hear.
He had purchased the rights to the RKO library and intended to redo all of their horror classics with Universal. However, the relative box office failure of this film and The Thing, both RKO and both 1982, put rest to any future remake plans. And then one more thing I like. At the film's premiere, producer Ned Cannon reputedly said to director Paul Schrader, Paul, if I have to sit through this shit, then you do too. You made it.
That's just a fine sign of the film's future there.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Well, one last thing. Annette O'Toole talks about the fact that they use cougars that were dyed black because leopards are impossible to train, but I could find no information that backs up that leopards are impossible to train. The cats in this are so gorgeous. It's just like, wow, really cool. So, Cat People. Vanessa?
It's been a long time since I've seen Cat People.
I would say you could wait.
Yeah, I guess it's not going any further up my list.
Keep the memories.
10 minutes.
I originally was like, oh God, 1 year, how am I going to find anything? Especially if I can't do anything successful. Turns out there is a huge quantity of awesome movies, and it was pretty tough to pick. So I went ahead and went on a whim with 1982's Swamp Thing, which I'd never seen.
Government agents, scientists, soldiers, master criminals, secret formulas, monsters and midgets. None of them belong in this swamp. Only one thing does. The Swamp Thing.
Uh-huh. Here comes trouble.
The Swamp Thing.
There goes the neighborhood.
Adrienne Barbeau and the Swamp Thing, an outrageous pair in the incredible adventure that grows on you or all over you. The Adventures of the Swamp Thing. The comic book legend lives
Free on Amazon Prime. But be careful, because there are 2 thumbnails, one of which you have to pay for, one that you don't.
What's the difference?
Nothing.
Oh,
The one that you have to pay for is SD. I did not pay for it. I backed out and was like, I think I can get I'm going to check this free one. And it was the same one. Rotten Tomato score of 60% from critics, 41% from audience.
Yeah.
Pretty high for critics. Budget of $2.5 million. Box office, kind of unknown because it went to video/Laserdisc. Those numbers are harder to find. Directed by Wes Craven, who has 32 credits to his name for directing and 57 as a writer. But for directing, we have discussed him on the show for Last House on the Left, Deadly Friend, and I think we also, Eric, did you do Serpent and the Rainbow? Somebody did.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did at one point.
Okay, cool. He's also known for, of course, Nightmare on Elm Street, The Hills Have Eyes, People Under the Stairs, and Scream 1 through 4. Starring the beautiful Adrienne Barbeau as Alice Cable. 165 credits to her name, including Escape from New York, The Fog, and Becoming John Carpenter's Wife, now ex. She's in Creepshow. She does a lot of voice acting, including for things like Batman, the animated series, and now games like Starfield, Halo 4, and Spider-Man 2. Also, 24 episodes of Carnival and 66 episodes of General Hospital, which I did not know. Ray Weiss is in this. Is it Weiss or Wise?
Wise.
Wise. As Dr. Alec Holland. 254 credits to Ray's name. He was, of course, Leland Palmer in Twin Peaks. He was Leon Nash in RoboCop. And recently, 91 episodes of Fresh Off the Boat, which I also did not know. And Louis Jordan as Arcane, 89 credits, including Octopussy, Gigi, Letters from an Unknown Woman, and many, many French productions, because he's French. Plot.
So aggressive.
Let me tell you about the plot. Government worker Alice Cable is sent to the remote bogs of somewhere in the South to help a science bioengineering project run by Alec Holland. She's a top computer person. She's some kind of smart person and able to help with some malfunctioning sensors that are just like giant plastic domes with a circuit board loosely inside. However, the swamp is not her scene. She makes that very clear. She thinks that this is just Hicksville, nowhere, USA. But she does have a sharp wit and enjoys a good banter with Alec. But after meeting Linda Holland, she tells him he should just keep his eyes on his wife, only to later learn that Linda is his sister. Woot. She can totally flirt with him. It's fine. Meanwhile, Anton Arcane is obsessed with Holland's research and sends out goons to take down their remote lab in the bogs and steal Holland's work. He's on a quest for immortality and believes that Alec's research will do just the trick. But when the goons get there, they kill Linda, and in the struggle, Alec smashes his own formula on himself, which is highly flammable and explodable. He's then super on fire and runs into the swamp, jumping in. When the goons go after him, they're taken down by a strange, strong, swampy creature. Cable is able to escape with Holland's notebook containing the formula, and thus begins the bulk of the film, where his goons chase her, get her, and then she's saved by Swamp Thing, like 4 times, at least. It's so insanely boring. We do get introduced to Jude, this cool black kid who's running a local, like, grocery store kind of thing. He just steals the film. He has such a fun performance, great one-liners. He delivers everything with this kind of cool demeanor, and it just makes it so much funnier. She tries to, like, get a Coke can out of a machine, and she's kicking it, and he goes, "That ain't gonna do anything. You gotta punch it." It punches it, and of course the Coke comes out. Anyway, finally, Cable realizes that the savior from the swamp is, in fact, Alec Holland. 62 minutes into the film, kind of beginning the plot, who is fused with the chemicals that to create basically a super version of himself. He purposely gets himself and her caught, apparently, so that he can confront Arcane because you must go through, not around. Arcane has the notebook, of course, now and masters the formula. He puts it on his goon and himself and creates two monstrous beings. Alec then has to fight to escape and save himself and Cable. And there's boobs. Thoughts? The coolest thing in this is definitely the black kid. Also, I love, at one point, Alex gets his arm chopped off and he has to like grow a vine back out of it. And that's really cool. The last 10 minutes of the movie where we get these weird like beast creatures that have this big fight that almost feels like Dr. Moreau, even though the costumes are all pretty terrible. Really fucking bad. Like you can see the seams. Still the most fun part of the film. Also, the wipes. They use freely the cheesiest wipes in history. And I'm talking editing wipes here. Diagonal, we got the curtain wipe. They finally at the end use a clock wipe. Oh, it's beautiful. I was like writing down every time they used a wipe. It was incredible. They'd get like kind of, at first they were just like left to right, left to right, left to right. Then it was diagonal. And then all of a sudden I was like, whoa, a curtain wipe. Holy shit, you guys. And then 3 more curtain wipes. And then the clock. I was like, fuck, yes. Somebody had a good time. Not me. The pacing is awful. Her getting captured over and over and over again, I literally was like having a hard time paying attention to this movie. I was like, I could do something else on my phone because it is the same movie again. It's not good. Of course the costumes are bad, but I'm glad they tried. I'm glad they tried something. And her boobs. Okay, look, she's a beautiful woman. She has great boobs, but this is insane. At one point, they literally tie her to a chair, but have her boobs on top outside of the ropes resting upon them. Like, there is no point in which her boobs could be in this film that they don't make sure they are front and center. I do also like, though, however, that they end the film with a nice thank you to Radio Shack in the credits. So,
I remember when this came out on video in the late 90s and I was working at Suncoast, parents flipped the fuck out because they're all expecting this,
like kids,
the TV
action
version they'd seen and did not realize the nude scene Barbeau has. So people like, do you know what's in here? It's like, yeah, I'm a dude was a teenager when this movie came out. Of course I know what's in there. But a lot of people were not happy.
The version I saw actually did not have it, so I don't know if the paid for version.
Maybe that's what the paid for was
maybe
for.
That's the difference. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. So a little bit of fun trivia. Wes Craven was unaware of the Swamp Thing before being approached to direct this because he had no access to comics while growing up. They were forbidden by the church I was raised in. Yeah, sure. He found the comic book idea fascinating, though, and after reading the series was ready to fully jump in. Stuntman Anthony Cisier, who also did Freddy in Nightmare on Elm Street, burned himself by basically trying various chemicals and then running around the family swimming pool, setting himself on fire, and then jumping in to figure out the right formula. Jesus. They filmed in the swamps of South Carolina, and it was fairly miserable. It was during the ferociously hot summer with very, very high humidity, and there was a black caterpillar plague, so there were trees of big clumps that would just drop on your head and sting you. Wes Craven tried to keep Ray Weiss in costume throughout the film so that he could emote as Swamp Thing, but he just looked so clearly different from Dick Durock that they ended up using none of the footage until that realization that Craven shot the entire scene featuring the Swamp Thing twice, once with each performer. I'll just wrap it up with a couple more small things. Adrienne Barbeau's topless scene was shot and intended for use solely in the European release and therefore not included in the American cut. It was just one of those gratuitous breastness, says director Wes Craven on the DVD commentary. While the PG cut teases a brief profile shot, Craven believed the full scene was an absolute definition of gratuitous. Wes Craven didn't work again for nearly 2 years after this film's release, saying, I kind of felt like I had my chance and kind of blown it. It would probably never work again. Normally, I feel that almost after every single film. So there you go.
Can you go back? Who was the writer on this?
Oh, I did not mention the writer, and I did not look it up.
Oh,
so
I don't think it was Wes.
Who wrote this?
Yeah,
I think it is. Yeah,
it is
written by Wes Craven.
Yep,
so,
it is.
So much potential for this movie.
Oh,
Yeah.
And all he had to do was follow the first 4 issues of the original comic.
It feels like he maybe did the first issue. Maybe he got through it.
Yeah, and then he's got Arcane turning himself into a monster. And if you go way back to those original Swamp Thing, it's actually like a castle full of monsters because he's been experimenting on humans forever. And I get that they didn't have the budget for that.
Right.
But it could have been something else.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 2 very distinct Swamp Thing series periods. And that first one with Wrightson's art is just freaking amazing. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, it's a fucking horror comic book.
Was it Len Wein? How we say his name is the writer? Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, and then that new. Did you ever get into the new Swamp Thing series that got shut down like 8 episodes in?
Yes.
And that was looking very cool, and then they kind of blew it. So I do know that James Gunn. That's one of the first things they're doing in this new DC is a Swamp Thing, and he said it's going to be a full-out horror film.
Oh, good. Okay, because it should be.
Yeah. Eric, are you ready?
I am ready.
10 minutes, buddy.
I have got from 1982.
Shocking.
The Living Dead Girl. This is came out on August 25th, 1982. I don't know why that was listed. There is surprisingly no official review on Rotten Tomatoes of this. 44 from the crowd, which is fine. No idea of budget or box office. It's available on Canopy and Tubi. This is directed by Jean Rollin, who you might know from Dracula's Fiancés or Two Orphan Vampires, The Grapes of Death.
Oh, I saw The Grapes of Death.
Yeah, I have too. And Requiem for a Vampire. Plus a whole shit ton of films. He's done a lot of movies. And he's also the writer. And he was the writer on all of those same things. Jacques Rolfe also is a writer on it. Well known for The Escapees and Mont Dragon. Right? No. Okay. And Gregory K. Heller, who wrote Alphabet City. I think I've at least heard of. Starring Marina Pierrot, Softly from Paris, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Miss Osborne.
Not where I thought that title was going.
Nope. Taxi Love. And she was an extra in Suspiria. Like, okay. Francois Blanchard, who's in Little Dracula, Babar. Yes, the cartoon.
Yeah.
Police Destination Oasis, Bucky O'Hare and the Toad Wars.
Of course.
And Mike Marshall, who was in I Hate Actors, The Day of the Jackal, I'll Sell My Skin Dearly.
Oh.
Don't Look Now, We're Being Shot At. So
Wow.
You'll love those Italian/French, that Spanish title sometimes. Movie starts with a group of men taking an oil barrel deep underground. They're calling it chemical waste and stored with about a dozen barrels. They leave it behind and they drop the barrels. They put on like these masks and stuff, and the guy's like, "Why are we doing?" One of the guys like, "Why are we doing this?" Because there's lots of gasoline around here. I'm like, "Okay." And they walk a little ways to two very pristine-looking coffins,
Hmm?
which are apparently the people's castle, who's well, not castle, but their house, who's a ways away. This is where they're buried, connected directly to this waste thing, which also has an exit out to the regular world. Anyways,
Mm.
in which they walk in and there's a bunch of candles lit. Not that much gas, I
Right.
guess. But they start looking to rob from the coffin, and one of the barrels breaks loose and leaks heavily during an earthquake and revives the living dead girl.
Okay.
Simultaneously, the acid hits one of the guys, falls on the ground and falls in it, and it's sort of a light version of RoboCop with his face all getting all melty. So I don't know what this shit was. Apparently can revive the dead and burn the living.
Hmm.
One of the corpse wakes up and she immediately stabs the other guy in the eyes with her nails. And blood and screaming ensues, and a lot of it. I'm like, dude, stop screaming, man. The other guy gets melted, so he doesn't get that. And a third man who comes down to see what's going on also gets his throat torn open by her nails. After this, we're introduced to a couple that appear to be photographers, although the woman says she has no interest in being a photographer. Then she proceeds to go out and take a lot of pictures. Okay. She does one of the picture that captures her interest is a picture of the living dead girl is walking through the area they're taking photos in her no shoes, oddly fancy looking dress to be wandering in the woods in. So she becomes fascinated with her and tries to figure out who she is. The living dead girl wanders into a home, which you quickly realize probably is where she lived before, because she knows she heads directly to particular things. At the same time, though, it is being sold. So there's a real estate agent showing people around that they just sort of just miss each other as they're walking. And the real estate agent and the people leave. And she continues to go through the house and reminisce about flashbacks of her and a woman as little children doing a blood oath that if one dies, the other will die after them.
Ah.
Oh, that's a dark one. Okay. And then, so this is all wrapped around a little music box that she finds and plays. So the real estate agent, knowing it's an empty house, decides to invite her boyfriend over. And so they begin what you do in a genre-then film. Sex begins happening, and then she finds them and ends up killing both of them. And Jean Rollins known largely for his structure and his ability to make cool shots, not necessarily great movies. The cool shot in this film is the real estate agent is injured but not dies, and she runs out the front of the stairs and falls at the top of the stairs head down, and there's this huge archway door that opens up that the living dead girl walks through. I'm just like, holy shit, that is a spectacular looking shot. Her friend is selling the house or something. I don't know why, because she calls the house. All she hears is the living dead girl sort of making some noises, but then she hears the music box. And from that, she decides, oh my God, my dead friend is alive again. So she runs to the house so she can take care of her and help her with whatever she needs.
Oh my God.
And of course, she finds them with the real estate folks and her boyfriend all dead and bloody. But she agrees, hey, I'll stay and take care of you and help you clean up this mess. This house has that enormous basement I mentioned, which she walks down to and then gets to the coffins and is like, holy shit. Meanwhile, the photographer is asking around town, and not everybody, but several of the people know who she is and say, yeah, that's so-and-so. She lives in this house and died 2 years ago or whatever it is.
Ooh.
Well-preserved corpse for somebody that was dead for as long as they implied. So she decides she's going to go to the house and see what's happening. Will she make it to the house? Will you be impressed that there's one blonde, one brunette, and one redhead? It's the 3 stars.
Excellent.
This movie. And will she forever live on as the living dead girl? Is she the evil person she fears she is? Eventually, she starts talking again. It's a pretty good film. I guess in a lot of areas, it's considered Jean Rollins like one of his worst. But I have not seen a lot of his movies. So, but this is, I mean, yeah, it's ludicrous, as many Italian horror movies are. The setups make no sense. The basic storyline of, is she a zombie? Is she a vampire? Is she some kind of a ghoul? It's never really answered. So you don't quite know what she is or why she comes back from the dead. None of that really matters. The acting is okay, except when they go over the top. And it is so much fun, this ridiculous, melodramatic, over-the-top acting that just works in this kind of context. Would not work in many other films at all. This was one of my early self-education film things that I started when I discovered Scarecrow Video. Because I'd heard of him. I'd never seen any of his films. I go, let's check this one out. In my head, this was a really pervy film. I'm kind of like, is this really as pervy as I thought it was? Filled with all kinds of strange lesbian things and stuff. Nope, not really. Probably compared to what I watched in Twin Falls, it was filled with all kinds of nudity.
Yeah.
Because there's definitely there, but there's no real sex except for the real estate agent and her boyfriend. And the rest is fairly, what you call casual nudity, I guess. And there's not that many scenes. So I was like, guess this hit me very differently when I was in my early 20s. But let's see what else we got here. The film looked okay. There's something saying it was remastered in 2012. I don't know whoever remastered did the greatest job, or if it's just source material is fairly bland and needs a lot more love than it got. But it looks good, and structurally is well shot. It is well set up. There's lots of neat momentary images, and a lot of things go well. It was banned in Germany for a while because of the violence, and has been re-released in the UK and stuff in 1994. The Jean Rollin met the Italian actress who stars in it at Sitges.
Oh.
That's been around a long goddamn time. And later his agent proposed to him for the lead in the film, and he agreed since he'd been impressed with her. And she had such a strong personality, which is what he needed for the role. And this was filmed simultaneously in English and probably French. I think it's a French film. The English language movie, though, has been lost and is not available anymore.
Oh my gosh. Whoa.
But
I'm going to assume this is where Rob Zombie got the title for his song.
I would think so. Yeah.
Because I've never heard of this movie before.
Oh, really? Yeah. No, it's good enough. It's atmospheric enough that I could definitely see him being a fan of the film. There's a lot going on. It's really good. A lot going on. You're like, I don't know about that, but okay, let's roll. Keep going.
I don't know about that.
Exactly.
Cool. 1982, guys.
Wow. Better than expected.
I remember it well.
Just saying.
Vanessa, that means that the next subgenre pick is yours.
Ooh, okay. Well, how about we do something like Crowds Gone Wild? Maybe Mass Hysteria.
Girls Gone Wild?
So you might want to reword that.
Crowds Gone Wild?
Crowds of girls?
Crowds could be, I guess. This can be anything from cults to hypnosis, drugs, illness, whatever, but big old crowd going
like mass hysteria, I think.
Mass hysteria.
Okay, I like that idea.
Mass historian.
Mass historians.
Everyone's really into history. Just tours of old things.
Well, fantastic. Okay, that means that this is the part where we thank everybody, all the listeners out there who are participating by liking, sharing posts, speaking or discussing films on the Strange Eons Radio talk page. Calling into the Strange Eons Radio hotline, which is 253-237-4266. And especially if the way you feel like helping out the show is by donating money, some kind of value. We call that the value for value model. We don't tell you how much to donate. You decide that for yourself. You figure out what value you get out of this. You give it back. Am I missing anything, guys?
Lots of things.
I've got a book out.
Yes. The book.
Out. It'll be out.
Yeah.
Available. Where can people pick that up from?
Have you ever heard of Amazon.com?
Tell me more about this Amazon.
Sounds like they...
The jungle?
Yeah.
Do I have to get plane tickets?
No, you can go to Amazon.com. You can search for the title, The Secret Language of Spiders. My writing name is K.L. Young. Or you can go to my website, which is www.writtenbyklyoung. And I'm going to have available on there autograph copies for probably the same price as Amazon. So, yeah.
Cool.
I'll have to charge you for shipping. You don't have Prime on my site.
Yeah, that's true. And it may not be there overnight or anything like that.
Right. But if you want, listen, I'm not selling thousands of copies. If you want, reach out to me and say, yes, I would like it inscribed or whatever you want. I'll do whatever you want and I'll get it in the mail to you.
Nice.
So that's it. We are going to be coming back in 7 short days. We're going to be talking about Crowds Gone Wild. See you next Thursday.
Transportation and other considerations for Strange Eons Radio produced by Pan Am Airlines. When you think of traveling, think of Pan Am. You can't beat the experience. Guests of Strange Eons Radio stay at Econo Lodge Everett. It's an easy stop on the road, you know what we mean. Strange Eons Radio is recorded live in front of a studio audience. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving us a positive review on your favorite podcast app. Sit, Ubu, sit.
They're known for having like hot sexual scenes, which I am always grossed out by because I'm weird.